Shalom. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai broke a thumb to the brothers. Yahweh Shamar al thumb Ba'Shem Yahushai to the sisters. This is Priest and Officer Shargapan of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General YAHANNA. And since 1969, we've been teaching that the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American men, women, and child are the real children of God. We make up the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And right now we are the Hudson Valley Israelites, streaming live to you on Facebook. We also got a YouTube page. Make sure you all subscribe to our YouTube page if you're in the Hudson Valley. All right, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. Subscribe and share our YouTube page. It's No Cowards Hudson Valley on YouTube. We're going to be going live on there as well. In addition, all right. So today's class is called This High Holyday is not about gifts. You know, we're coming into the season where people like to celebrate and give each other presents and gifts and all types of stuff and talk about Christmas this and Christmas that, when in actuality, as Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we have nothing to do with Christmas. We have nothing to do with a white fat man named Santa Claus. We have nothing to do with any of that stuff. In fact, we have our own holiday, our own high holy day, if you understand what I mean. And it's not about giving gifts. It's not about presents and singing Silent Night. It's not about any of that stuff. What it is about is about the history of our people losing what we had. What it is about is the history of our people suffering because of these heathens, because of the people of these other races, because of white people, because of all these people that want to do us wrong and take what is ours. You know, it is about fighting and shedding blood and willing to sacrifice and die just to take back what is ours. That's what this high holy day is. And if you don't know what high holy day I'm talking about, because you're so accustomed to celebrating Easter and Thanksgiving and Pocahontas' birthday and Christmas, you wouldn't understand. But today you're gonna understand. Today you're gonna learn about the real high holy day that Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are supposed to be celebrating. And that high holy day is called the Feast of Dedication. That high holy day is called in the Hebrew HUDSON. So we're going to talk about our high holy day. We're going to talk about HUDSON. We're going to talk about how it started and where it came from and what happened to get it and what happened to create it and how many people suffered, how many people lost their lives, what we had to lose in order to have this high holy day, right? So what I would like for all of you to do right now is I want you all to open up your apocrypha. If you don't have an apocrypha, this is what you can do. If you don't have an apocrypha, I'm going to post a link online where you can follow us. All right? And here you'll be able to read along with us if you don't have an Apocrypha. All right. Now, the Apocrypha are the books that were taken out of the Bible because it contains so much information that can help our people understand who our enemy was. Right? It'll help our people understand who the most diabolical race of people or races of people on earth were. So here I just posted the link that you can follow, right? I have the link here that you can follow along online in the King James Bible. And what you can do is follow along with us. All right? So the link is posted. And again, I'm Priest and Officer Shargapan of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. I'm coming straight out of the Hudson Valley, which means if you're in Rockland County, Westchester County, Orange County, Dutchess County, Putnam County, all the way from the top of the Bronx, all the way up to the bottom of Albany. This is all for you right here. It doesn't matter which county you're living in. It doesn't matter where where you're tuning in from. This is for you. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is called No Cowards Hudson Valley. All right. No Cowards Hudson Valley. You can find us there on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. All right. So now we're about to get started. So we're going to start at 1 Maccabees Chapter 1. All right. We're going to be talking about the Feast of Dedication, how it came to be, what happened to our people, and how this is the high holy day that Black, Hispanic, and Native American people should be celebrating. And it's not Christmas. Let's begin. And it happened after that. 1 Maccabees Chapter 1, verse 1. And it happened that after Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persian and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. Here we're starting to talk about who people learned about in high school and elementary school and middle school and history, Alexander the Great, Alexander of Macedonia. And yes, Alexander of Macedonia, Alexander the Great, is in our biblical records. Right? So it's talking about how Alexander defeated the Persians and the Medes, killed Darius the king, and became the first person of all of Greece to rule over all Greece. All right? Verse 2. And made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. And Alexander went all over as much as he could and started wars with everyone and won over kingdoms and killed kings and took control of vast lands and had this great empire that he built, him and the Greeks built. Verse 3, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. And he went through all over the earth, from China, to India, to Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, to Egypt, to Greece, to Syria, the Middle East, everywhere he went, he conquered, he gained all these riches and all these spoils, and he was exalted as if he was a god on earth, right? Verse 4, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And as he conquered each different land and each different empire, those people and those rulers there would pay tribute to Alexander. Every year they will give him riches and gold and silver and all types of things to honor him, right? Verse 5, and after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Now, the reason why Alexander got sick was because Alexander, like all other heathens, engaged in pedophilia, engaged in homosexual. Hey, If you want to even say he engaged in bestiality, go right ahead. Because we already know that we got gonorrhea and all types of diseases from white people having sex with animals like sheep and goats. So Alexander got extremely sick because he was a disgusting heathen. Him and all the Greeks, him and all these white people, even today, are disgusting people, right? And it came to the point where he would die. Verse 6. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he yet lived. So he got his homeboys, his generals, the people he rode with since he was young, who fought side by side with him, who struggled with him, and helped him conquer the known world at that time. And he gave each one a piece of his empire for them to rule. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. So Alexander only ruled for about 12 years and he died. Verse 8. And his servants bare rule, every one in his place. Verse 9. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so did their sons after them. Many years and evils were multiplied in the earth. So when he died, his generals, they all got a piece. One had Greece, one had Egypt, one had the Middle East, one had this place. And they all put crowns upon themselves and made themselves kings. And then this empire that they had, this kingdom that they all of them had, they passed it down to their sons and their sons. So their family lineages ruled these places for years and decades, right? And when these people ruled the earth, evils multiplied on the earth. More wicked things happen all across the world because, again, the scripture says, when the wicked are under control, the earth mourns. I'm paraphrasing. And you had wicked people ruling the earth, so you know the earth was in mourning. Terrible things would happen. Unrighteousness was running rampant all over the earth. Verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes. Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Now this man Antiochus was an extremely evil man, and he ruled over the kingdom of the Greeks. Verse 11. In those days went out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Now, there were wicked people living in Israel. There were wicked men in Israel. There were some Black, Hispanic, and Native American men who had no backbone, who had pudding in their chest, who had a chest filled with jelly. And they were convincing all the other Israelites living in Israel and telling them that our lives right now is extremely difficult. We're suffering. We don't have food. It's extremely hard to get by. Let us make a deal. Let us make a pact. Let us join ourselves to these heathens. Let us join ourselves to our oppressors. Because right now, they're surrounding us anyway. Right now, we're having a difficult time. And ever since we left from them, we've been suffering. Verse 12. So this device pleased them well. And because these Israelites were able to convince everyone else, everyone thought that this was a good idea, basically. Let's join the Egyptians again. Let's join the Greeks again. Let us be under their rulership. Because then our lives we wouldn't suffer so much. Verse 13. Then certain of the people were so forward hearing that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So these people that were able to convince the rest of us, they went to the king of the Greeks, and they told him, listen, we want to be joined onto you. We want to serve you. We want to be joined to your empire and be under your rulership. And then the king gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathens. And then the king said, you know what? Okay, fine. Now this is what you're going to do. You're going to do what our people do. Verse 14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathens. Now we all know how the Greeks had the Olympics and the games, and how men would be butt naked, no clothes on, wrestling each other. They'll be doing all types of sports, completely nude. And we ended up doing the same thing that they did. We built a place of exercise in Jerusalem after the same as the Greeks. Verse 15. And made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. And what we did, because of the weak Israelites that thought it would be better to live under oppression and under the heathens, under the Greeks, these white people, they got the rest of Israel to disobey God. They got the rest of Israel to give up the laws that they were supposed to follow, to give up the heritage they were supposed to follow, to abandon their culture and their customs, right? And the people that helped get us to do that were sold to do mischief. They were bought with a price to get the rest of us to commit sin and iniquity and to abandon our language, our culture, our heritage. Then let's skip down to verse 20. Again, if you're joining us, all the brothers, Shalom, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Barakatham. To the sisters, Yahweh Shamar Latham Bashim Yahushai. I'm priest and officer of Shargapan. If you can, I would like for all of you to subscribe, like, and share our YouTube channel. I'm posting the link to our YouTube channel right now. You can go on to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and share that link all over the earth. You know, we got brothers and sisters living all over the Hudson Valley in New York, Rockland County, Westchester County, Orange County, Dutchess County. You know, they need this truth, because they suffering up in Newburgh and Yonkers and Spring Valley and Mount Vernon, Poughkeepsie and Peekskill and Montgomery and Highland Falls. They're suffering all over these places. All right. So click on our YouTube link. Make sure you like and subscribe and share that link. All right. Right now, we're talking about the high holiday, the high holy day, which is called the Feast of Dedications, and in the Hebrew, HANUKKAH. We're talking about the beginnings of how this all came to be and what happened to our people. We're in the book of 1 Maccabees Chapter 1, and we're going to skip verses 16 to 19 and go to verse 20. All right? And after verse 20, and after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 140th and third year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude. So after we finished joining ourselves to the Greeks, after we finished making a pact and a covenant with these heathens, with these white people, the king Antiochus, after he conquered Egypt, he was like, you know what? I'm gonna go and conquer Israel too. Even though they submitted unto me anyway, I want to go and cause them misery, and I want to go and conquer them and rule over them even worse. Verse 21. And he entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof. And so when these Greeks came into the land of Israel, they completely disregarded and didn't care that we were under their rulership, that we were serving them. And they went into our own temple, our sanctuary. These heathens, these Greeks, these white people went into the most holiest place for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And they entered in there proudly because they knew we couldn't do anything about it. In their minds, they knew we were weaker than them and we were serving them. And they took away our golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof. And they started to take everything in our temple, all the precious gold, the ornaments, the altar, everything that we built up and put in our temple to serve our Lord and to worship our God. Verse 22. And the temple of the showbread and the pouring vessels and the vials and the censers of gold and the veil and the crowns and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. They took everything. Verse 23. He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also, he took the hidden treasure which he found. Every single thing that we had in our temple, every sacred thing, these heathens, these Greeks, these white people did not care whatsoever about, and they stole everything. They ransacked the most holiest place to us. That's like you and your family owning a piece of land and you building up your wealth and making your home bigger and bigger. And then having the police come in, busting down your door, you not be able to do anything, and the police just coming to take everything. You take your TV, take your gold, your jewelry, your bed, the ceramic tiles you laid down in your bathroom wall and floor. They took everything. Anything that you hid, let's say you hid some cash underneath your mattress, they lifted up the mattress and they took the cash that you had there too. This is what these heathens did. Verse 24. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly. And not only did he take all of our treasure, all of our sacred things, but he also slaughtered our people. Even though we were under the Greeks' rulership, even though we followed the customs of the Greeks, even though we built gymnasiums and places of exercise like the Greeks told us to, they still stole all of our things and massacred our people. They killed so many people. And then at the end, he boasted proudly. He spoke proud of it, like if it was a great feat. Not only did he defeat the Egyptians, but he came to the people he was already ruling over and stole everything, killed many people. Verse 25. Therefore, there was a great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were. So, verse 26, so that the priests and elders mourned, the virgins and the young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women were changed. Verse 27, every bridegroom took up lamentations, and she that stayed in the marriage chambers was in heaviness. Verse 28, the land was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. So our people were suffering because of what happened. And the reason why this happened was because some wicked Israelites, some evil Black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women, like we have today, these Christian pastors, these Christian pastors and deacons and bishops, these people that want to convert to the religion of Islam, these people that want to join themselves to the white man's politics and be Republicans and Democrats, the people that want to join the Catholic Church, right? The people that want to be celebrities and superstars and kiss the rest of the Black, Hispanic, and Native American people to join the Greeks, to join the white people. And what ended up happening is that we ended up suffering, like we're suffering here in America, like we're suffering all over the world. We have police gunning us down and killing our children and our men and our women. High incarceration rates for Black, Hispanic, and Native American men. We got our young boys growing up being homosexuals and dressing like women. We got our young girls growing up thinking that it's okay to be strippers and whores and prostitutes and shake their behind. There was a confusion throughout all the land because some wicked Israelites convinced the people that it would be better to serve these Greeks, that it would be convinced the people that it would be better to serve these white people than to serve our own Lord. They convinced us to give up our culture and our customs, to follow the customs of these heathens. Verse 29, all right? Give me 1 second. All right, verse 29. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude. And after 2 years, after King Antiochus came and robbed us and slaughtered many people, after 2 years, he sent a messenger. He sent a chief collector of tribute. So he sent someone to come to us and tell us that we're going to pay tribute to the king. And this chief collector came also with a great multitude. So he came with armed men. This great multitude that he came with were men on horses, men on foot, all with shield and weapons and swords. Right? Verse 30. And spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel. And after we heard this person telling us that he's here in peace and that all we have to do is pay tribute to the king, he was actually lying. And the great multitude that he came with, after we agreed and after we were giving him what the king asked for, he came and started to fight with us and kill us and rob us. So he wasn't there for peace. He wasn't there to take tribute. He was there to steal, rob what we had, and also to destroy us, to kill. And it says, and destroyed much people of Israel. So they ended up killing innocent people. We were there to let's just give the king what he wants. They're here in peace, but it was all deceit. Verse 31. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and the walls thereof on every side. And after they finished fighting us and killing us, they took as much as they could from all the city. They set the city on fire. They destroyed people's homes, pulled down the walls, everything. They destroyed our land. They destroyed our city once again. Verse 32. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. But our women and our children, they took them to be slaves. And our livestock, our cows, our sheep, our goats, our horses, everything, they took them and stole them as well. Verse 33. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And then what they did was they ended up taking the city of David and building a fortress for themselves with great and strong walls and mighty towers. And it was basically their base of operation, their stronghold, where they can be near us to keep us in check, to keep on taking our stuff, to keep on killing us, to basically rule over us and be wicked men amongst us. Verse 34. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. Like I said, they stayed there and made it their fortress, and we had a sinful nation. Wicked men, these wicked men that were heathens, these wicked men that were white people. And they ruled over us. Verse 35. And they stored it also with armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there. So they became a sore snare. And so after all the things that they stole from us, they put it into this fortress, into this place that they built up, and it became a sore snare. It became a trap. If anyone ever thought about even going there to try to take back something, it would be a trap. It was basically a setup. That's like putting all your money in the bank, taking everyone else's money, putting it in the same bank, and then daring someone to come try to take it. Look, it's right there. All we gotta do is come and take it. Meanwhile, they got men with arrows and horsemen and armies and militia ready to kill anyone that even attempts to try to come take it. Verse 36. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary and an evil adversary to Israel. And it was our sanctuary where we're supposed to celebrate our high holy days and feast days and worship the Lord. It was set up so that way at any given moment they can come out of that fortress and attack us and destroy us again. And it was an evil adversary to Israel. We knew that our enemy was just right across the road. We knew that the enemy was just right across the city, and at any moment they can come and wreak mayhem and destruction and slaughter and rape and rob us. Verse 37. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. And that's exactly what they did. They killed many Israelites all over the sanctuary, in the sanctuary, and they even came in and defiled it. They destroyed and took away the holiness of our temple. Verse 38. Insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. And so we fled. Our homeland no longer became ours, because we had these Greeks, these white people, these heathens, these monsters, these savages ruling in our land, killing us, slaughtering us, robbing us, taking everything that belonged to us, and we could no longer stay there. Because if we stay there, we'll be slaughtered. So we left. Verse 39. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbath into reproach, her honor into contempt. And we abandoned our sanctuary. And our sanctuary became like a wilderness. Imagine, have you guys ever seen the movie I Am Legend with Will Smith? And now he's like the only human left in the city of New York City. And you had wild animals like lions and tigers and deers and wolves running all over the place. And you had trees growing out of buildings and everything. The same thing happened to our temple, to our holy place, our sanctuary. It looked like a forest, right? Nothing was being done to maintain its glory. You know, our feast days were turned into mourning. We weren't happy and dancing and being cheerful on our high holy days and on our feast days. And if anything, we were in mourning. We were all crying because everything was destroyed. Everything was gone. Her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. We no longer gave honor to the Lord. We no longer kept the Sabbath holy. Verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. So then came a time where the King Antiochus said, everyone should be one. Kind of like what they're doing here in America and all over the world with the New World Order. And we should all be one people. We should all have one religion. We should all be one, come together as one. Verse 42. And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. And he said for everyone, the Egyptians, the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans at the time, the Arabs, everyone should abandon their culture, abandon their religion, abandon their gods, abandon their heritage, give up the laws that they follow. And all the heathen agreed according to the commandment and order of this king. Verse 43. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. And many of our Israelites, we agreed, you know what, we're gonna stop worshiping our Lord, and we're gonna worship the gods of the Greeks. We're gonna make sacrifices to the gods of the Greeks. We're gonna build idols and worship these idols and no longer worship the Lord. We weren't gonna keep the Sabbath holy. This is what happened. Because weak men, weak Black, Hispanic, and Native American men wanted to join with these Greeks, wanted to join with these white people, and cause all of Israel to give up our own heritage and our own culture. All right, verse 44. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. 45. And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbath and festival days. Verse 46. And pollute the sanctuary and holy people. Verse 47. Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts. Verse 48. And they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. Verse 49, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. So the king said, listen, he sent letters to us Israelites in Jerusalem and said, this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to stop obeying the law. You're going to have to stop worshiping him. You're going to have to worship my gods. You're going to have to sacrifice unto my idols. You're going to do some of the most abominable things and sacrifice pig, sacrifice swine flesh. You're going to go into your own sanctuary and sacrifice swine on your altar, sacrifice rat on your altar, sacrifice horse on your altar and camel. You're going to basically disrespect the Most High. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to do all these things. You're no longer going to uncircumcise your boys on the 8th day. You're gonna do unclean things like eat pork and eat dog and rat and cat. You're gonna become homosexuals and lesbians, and you're gonna have sex with animals. You're gonna do everything that I say you're going to do, and you're no longer going to give honor to the Lord. You're going to abandon the laws of God. And this was the commandment, verse 50. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. And if you did not want to obey the king, if you did not want to give up your culture, your heritage, your God, if you did not want to give up the laws that God gave you to obey and follow, you were put to death. If you didn't want to believe in the gods of the Greeks, you were put to death. If you didn't want to sacrifice pig and swine and horse inside your holy temple, you were put to death. Verse 51. In the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. Verse 52. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land. And so what happens was the king put overseers, put rulers. Basically, he put slave masters over us. He put taskmasters over us. He put mayors and governors and police over us to make sure that we obeyed his laws, to make sure that we obeyed his religion that he wanted everyone to follow. And if we didn't, we were put to death. And so in verse 52, like I said, all the people, all the Israelites, they forsook the law. They gave up the law. They no longer followed the Most High, and they committed evils. They committed wickedness in the land. They started to eat pork. They started to be homosexuals. They started to commit adultery. They started to worship and pray to fake gods, to idols. Verse 53. And drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could file for succor. And so Israelites who did not want to do this, Israelites who believed in the Most High God, who would not compromise their God, their culture, their heritage, who wanted to keep the law, they had to go into hiding. They had to escape and find secret places where they can keep worshiping their Lord and sacrificing unto God. Verse 54. Now on the 15th day of the month of Caselu, in the 150th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. Now the abomination of desolation, think of the most unholiness, wickedness, unclean thing. And these heathens, these Greeks, these white people, together with other Israelites, they went and they basically sacrificed swine on our holy altar. They went and they basically sacrificed horse on our holy altar. This abomination of desolation upon the altar is your Christmas tree. That's you and your family going to the people on the corners, or going into the forest to cut down a tree to use as a Christmas tree and have it stand up and erect in your household. That's the abomination of desolation. We ended up doing the most wickedest thing and sacrificing it, praying to it, worshiping it, and built idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. And we did abominable things, and we created places of worship to pray to these fake gods, to pray to the gods of the Greeks. We no longer pray to our God, the Most High God, Yahweh. Verse 55. And burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. and we worship them. We burnt incense. We in our own houses, in the streets. We did all this wickedness. We no longer gave thanks to our God. For everyone that's joining us, again, we're going over the Feast of Dedication, the only high holy day that we should be celebrating in this 9th month of Caselu, which you know as December. And we should not be celebrating Christmas. We should not be celebrating that crap holiday called Kwanzaa. We're not celebrating the Jewish man's Hanukkah, where they give gifts for 8 days. Hanukkah, the Feast of Dedication, is not about giving gifts. All right? It's about us suffering and losing our most sacred places and us fighting to get it back. Verse 56. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire. And these Greeks, these white people, when they saw our scriptures, our Bibles, our history, they ripped them up and burnt them all. Verse 57. And whosoever was found of any, the book of the testament, or if any consented to the law, the king's commandment was that they should be put to death. And if any book was found in anyone's possession, and if anyone was still found keeping the laws of the Jews, of the Israelites, and not the king Antiochus, the Greek, the law was that we were to be put to death. Verse 58. And did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the cities. And any Israelite that was still found in the city of Jerusalem and all the land of Israel, that still kept the law of God, that still worshiped God, that did the after the culture of their people, the Greeks found them and they were killing them. And they killed them. Everyone they found, day after day, week after week, month after month. If you were found not doing what the king wanted you to do, if you were found giving honor to your own God, you were killed. Verse 59. Now the 5th and 20th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God. Now pay close attention, because it says, now the 5th and 20th day of the month. Now the 25th day of Caselu. Don't confuse it with the 25th day of December, because it has nothing to do with Christmas. It has nothing to do with baby Jesus being born on December 25th, right? Because according to the white man's calendar, December is the last month of the year. But according to us, the month of Caselu is the 9th month of the year. All right? But on this 25th day of the month of Caselu, they sacrificed upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God. So they made our holy place a place of worship for their gods. And they sacrificed to their own gods in our holy temple. Verse 60. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. And they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled the houses and slew them that had circumcised them. So at the same time, right, any woman that decided to keep the traditions of their forefathers and circumcise their young children, they were put to death. These mothers were put to death. These little Israelite babies, these white oppressors, these Greek devils, they took our little boys and they hung them by their necks. They killed these little babies, just like the Egyptians were killing our young boys because they were trying to stop us from increasing our population. They were trying to stop us from one day having someone to save us, which ended up being Moses. Verse 62. Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Verse 63, wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died. So many people, they resisted. Many people, the people that didn't flee Israel, and those that decided to stay, those people that decided to stay and not abandon their laws, and not abandon their God, and keep the Sabbath holy as best as they could and not eat unclean things like pork and crab and shrimp and horse. And they wanted to keep the traditions and customs of circumcising their young children, their young boys on the 8th day. They were put to death. And these righteous brothers and sisters, they rather be put to death than to disobey their God, disobey the Most High God. They would rather die than abandon the covenant that God made with our ancestors. All right? Now let's drop that and we're going to go into 1 Maccabees chapter 2. Now the link I gave you all, just go on to the 2nd chapter. And that's where we're going to continue on. All right? And again, make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right? There's No Cowards Hudson Valley on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, share it, like it. Let all your family members know that they should be subscribing to this YouTube channel, no matter where you are on the planet Earth, especially if you're in the Hudson Valley, Rockland County, Westchester County, Dutchess, Putnam. You should be subscribing to this YouTube channel. All right? All right, 1 Maccabees chapter 2, right? In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jorib from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. So in those days, in the days that all this wickedness was happening, that we were being ruled over these white people called Greeks, and they were killing us and they made us abandon our God and worship their God, a great man by the name of Mattathias rose up, and he had sons. And he had 5 sons. Verse 2. Jonathan called Caddis, Simon called Thasi, Judas who was called Maccabeus, Eleazar called Aaron, and Jonathan whose surname was Aphus. Verse 6, and when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, verse 7, he said, woe is me. And when Mattathias and his sons saw what was going on in Jerusalem, saw how these Greeks were ruling over us, saw how these Greeks were killing our young children, slaughtering our women, robbed us of our precious items, defiled our temple and destroyed our temple, got our people to abandon the laws of God and to sacrifice onto these fake idols and to worship the gods of the Greeks. He said, woe is me. He said, death and destruction is me. Our people are destroyed. Our people are dying. He basically saying, what he's basically saying is, we are destroyed. I can't believe what I'm seeing with my own eyes. Our people are destroyed. What can we do? This is terrible. This is horrible. Our people are suffering and doing things that we weren't supposed to do. Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy and the sanctuary in the hand of the strangers? Why was I born during this time to see all these terrible things? How can this be that our people are suffering? They're being oppressed by these white people. Our sanctuary has been destroyed and defiled by these heathens. He's basically in mourning. He can't believe what he's seeing. He's hurt because he never thought the day will come where the thing that is so precious to him will be destroyed as he's seeing right here. Verse 8. Her temple has become as man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the street. Her young men with the sword of the enemy. And he's going on and saying, talking about all the horrible things that are happening to his people, to his land, to the temple of God. Everything's being destroyed. Everything is being ruined, and our people are suffering. They're starving. They're dying. They're being killed. They're eating pork and horse and crab, shrimp and lobster. Verse 10, what nation have not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? And he's like, which nation of people didn't have a hand in destroying us? What race of people didn't help destroy my people Israel and stole our belongings, stole what was precious to us? Verse 11, and all her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman she has become a bondslave. All of our precious things have been stolen, and every free woman is now turned into a slave. Verse 12, and behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it, and our most holiest place has become wicked and vile and disgusting, because these Gentiles, they destroyed it, and they sacrificed swine flesh on our altar, in our temple, in the most holiest place that we built to worship our Lord. To what ends, therefore, shall we live any longer? He said, what's the point of living anymore? Everything is destroyed. Our temple is destroyed. Our people are disobeying our God. Our men are being killed. Our babies are being hanged. Our women are being raped and turned into slaves. What's the point of living anymore? We can't live no longer. Verse 14. Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore. So Mattathias and his sons then tore off their garments. They didn't get naked, like how some people like to say, like these self-taught-alites, these individualites, these Black and Hispanic and Native American men and women who want to teach themselves and read for themselves and have no understanding of these scriptures. They didn't get naked. They just tore off their garments. They still had clothes on. Just think about it. This is basically what happened. They basically made themselves look like bums, look like homeless people. They tore their clothes off. Their clothes had holes in it. It was all dirty. They got down to their bare minimum of just like having a shirt and some pants, wrinkled and holy, and they put sackcloth on, which was basically a material used in the most poorest states. So you know how a homeless person looks in the most run down clothing? This would be our version of sackcloth, right? They put this on to basically show their humility, to show how much they were suffering, and they mourned and very sore, and they cried out loud to the Lord, and they cried because of all the suffering that was happening. Right? Verse 15. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice. And now the king sent his officers again into the city of Modin to make the Jews, to make the Israelites sacrifice unto false idols again. Verse 16. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. And so when the king's officers came, all of Israel, including Mattathias and his sons, came to see the king's officers to see what was going on. Verse 17. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise. So the king came and said, and saw Mattathias, and told Mattathias this: Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. So this king knew who Mattathias was, and basically he's trying to gas Mattathias up. He's trying to make Mattathias feel special and good. He's telling Mattathias, you are a strong man, you are rich, you are wise, you have great honor, you're very famous and well known, in this city, and you even got all these children, all these sons and great families. You're a strong man. He's just trying to gas Mattathias up. He's just trying to butter him up. He's just trying to appease Mattathias. He's being sneaky like a snake, like how all white people are. Verse 18. Now therefore came thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yea, and the men of Judah also, and as such remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou in thy house be of the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. And then after gassing Mattathias, after trying to gas Mattathias up, he says, now you, Mattathias, of all this greatness that you have, why don't you come set an example? Why don't you come fulfill the king's commandment and sacrifice unto idols? Why don't you go grab that pig, take it into the sanctuary of your God where we build our own altars and sacrifice it? You know, be the example for everyone to follow after. Because all the heathen are doing this, so you shouldn't be the one not to. All the other men of Judah are doing this, so you shouldn't be the person that shouldn't. All the other Israelites that still live here in Jerusalem are sacrificing unto our gods. So why don't you do the same thing, be the example for everyone to follow after, and when you do, you know what? You'll be a friend to the king. You'll be a close companion, and you and your children, you'll be given all types of silver and gold and many rewards because you have great power and you can help the other people feel better about themselves while sacrificing onto heathen gods, while sacrificing onto the gods of white people, while sacrificing onto the gods of the Greeks. Come on, you do this and you'll be rich beyond all imagination. Verse 19. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away everyone from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments. So Mattathias is saying, listen, I know all these other people have abandoned their gods, have abandoned their religions, have abandoned their customs and their culture and their heritage, and they obey the king. Right? And they obey the king's commandments and do what the king wants them to do. Right? Verse 20. Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. Verse 21. God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. Verse 22. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion either on the right or the left. So after the king's officer was gassing up Mattathias and trying to tell him how great he was and how much power he had, and that all he had to do was be the example for all the other Israelites to follow and sacrifice to what the king told him to, Mattathias was like, no, we ain't doing that. I don't have a jelly-filled chest. I don't have pudding in my chest. I have a strong backbone. My spine stands erect. I'm not a weakling. I'm not a mindless drone that's going to fear you, heathens. What I'm going to do, what my sons are going to do, what my people and family are going to do, we're not going to sacrifice according to what your king has said. We're going to keep the covenants of our God, of our forefathers. We're not going to disrespect the Lord. We're going to keep his laws and his ordinances. And we're not going to do what the king wants us to do. We're not going to even bend the slightest bit. We're not going to even just bend the rules a little bit. We're not going to do anything. We're going to stand firmly on our ground and stand with the Lord. Verse 23. Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice to the altar, which was at Molden according to the king's commandment. So while Mattathias is taking a stand saying we ain't doing none of this crap, some weak, blackety black, Hispanic, sellout Native American decided to say, you know what, I don't want to die, because before they were killing people for not sacrificing onto the gods of the Greeks. I'm gonna come and sacrifice on the altar. Right? Verse 24. Which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. So while Mattathias is taking a stand and saying we ain't going to be doing this no more, He sees this sellout. He basically sees a Jay-Z. He sees Jennifer Lopez. He sees a Mark Anthony, a Ricky Martin. He sees a Pocahontas. You know, he sees Anna Kawana. He sees a sellout, Black, Hispanic, and Native American going to come sacrifice and do what the Greeks want him to do. And Mattathias couldn't take it. Mattathias went from 0 to 100 real quick. He couldn't stand to see what was happening. He couldn't no longer control himself. So he got off of his horse and he killed that sellout. He killed that Black, Hispanic, and Native American man that was going to go and disobey the Lord. Spit on the stance that Mattathias was taking and sacrifice unto the gods of these heathens. Sacrifice unto these white gods. Mattathias wasn't going to allow that. He couldn't control himself any longer. He got up and he slaughtered that Jew for disrespecting the Lord, for disrespecting the zeal and the will to do the Lord's, to keep the Lord's covenant. Verse 25. Also the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. And he also killed the king's commissioner. Anyone that was rolling with the king's commissioner to come make the people sacrifice, him and his sons and his brethren, they killed them all. And they pulled down the altar. The altars that were built to sacrifice unto these idols, unto the Greek gods, they pulled them down and destroyed them. Verse 26. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of God, like as Phineas did unto Zimri, the son of Salem. And verse 27, and Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So his zeal was lit. Mattathias was on 100, going full throttle for the Lord. When he came to see what happened to his people, he was in mourning and couldn't believe what was happening. Him and his son took off their clothes and put on sackcloth, looked like bums and homeless people, and cried and mourned to the Lord. And now he took a stance and was not going to allow this to happen any longer. And he told anyone who could hear him, if you want to keep the laws of God, if you obey the God of our forefathers, if you're tired of seeing what's happening to our people, if you're tired of seeing our little infants being hanged and our women being killed and raped and sold into slavery, if you're tired of all this BS, if you're tired of living under the oppression of white people, follow me. This is what Mattathias was telling the other Israelites. If you're ready to turn back to the Lord, follow me. If you want to keep the laws of God, follow me. If you would rather die than disobey God, follow me. And this is why the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge tells all Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, if you want to serve the Lord again, follow us, because we're following after the steps of Christ. We're keeping the laws of God and doing what God wants us to do. And if you're living in the Hudson Valley, Rockland County, Westchester County, Orange County, Dutchess County, Putnam County, from the tip of the Bronx to the southern part of Albany, what you should do is follow the I.S.U.P.K. Click on the link and subscribe to our YouTube channel, No Cowards Hudson Valley. The link is in the chat. All you gotta do is subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the bell so that way you get notifications when we go live, when we put up new videos, so that way you can stay abreast to what's going on a daily basis. So that way you can have an outlet where you can learn so that you can learn how you can change your life, how you too can take back your culture and your heritage. Just like Mattathias was doing, and he's telling everyone to follow him, follow us in the I.S.U.P.K. Click on the link, subscribe to No Cowards Hudson Valley on YouTube, like it, share it, click the bell, and get all the notifications and updates, all right? Verse 28. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. And many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there. So Matthias and his sons and everyone else that wanted to follow them, they gave up everything they had. Their homes, their houses, their jobs, their gold, everything that they possessed, they gave up. Because they rather serve the Lord than to keep serving these Greeks, these white people, these devils, and keep doing what these devils wanted them to do. They didn't want to keep sacrificing onto the gods of these white people, onto these devils. They thought that losing everything was better than disobeying their God, than going against their forefathers, than giving up their customs and their culture. So they fled. All right. For everyone that's just joining, this is Hudson Valley Israelites. To all the brothers, Shalom, Yahweh Bashem Yashar Barakatham. To the sisters, Yahweh Shamar Alatham Bashem Yabashai. I'm priest and officer Shagapan of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge under the Hudson Valley Israelites. Right? All of you, if you could, Baba Gashah, click the link. Click the link and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm reposting the link right now. All right. Subscribe, like, and share. If you're in the Hudson Valley, this is extremely crucial for your survival, for you to actually turn back and start obeying the laws of God. And the I.S.U.P.K Hudson Valley, it has been put in the Hudson Valley to help raise you up and to rebuild you. All right. Let's get back into the story. So we're gonna bypass chapter 3, 1 Maccabees chapter 3. I encourage you all to read 1 Maccabees chapter 3, because you're gonna read about all the battles that Matthias and his sons got into. You're gonna see how they fought for the Lord, how they fought to save their people, how they fought to take back what's theirs, right? And we're gonna fast forward to 1 Maccabees chapter 4, and we're gonna start at verse 1. So now we're bringing this all back front and center, and how the high holy day of Hanukkah, of the Feast of Dedication, actually became. So we learned about how the Greeks started to rule. We learned about how the Greeks took over our city, took over our land, killed our people, destroyed our places of worship, enslaved our people, killed our people. Now we're gonna learn how we, because of the zeal of one man and his sons, because how they wanted to stand for the Lord, we're gonna learn how we took back our land, how we took back our people, how we rescued our people and saved our people, how we stood for the Lord, and how we took back our holy temple, our sanctuary, and how we dedicated it back to the Lord. 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 1. Then took Georges 5,000 men and 1,000 of his best horsemen and removed out the camp by night. Now Georges is working for the Greek king, and Georges is just like a captain or a commander. He's leading this army. He has 5,000 men on foot, soldiers, and 1,000 men on horse, and they removed out of the camp by night. So Georges right now, what he's trying to do is he's trying to sneak up on Matthias' son, Judas. So Matthias is no longer alive. He fought valiantly and bravely. He got of old age and he passed. You know, his spirit went up to the Most High God to be judged, to see how honored and righteous he was. And now his son Judas is in control. And his son Judas is just as hardcore as his pops, right? So Georges and this heathen army, they left out of their own camp because they're trying to attack us. And they left at nighttime. They left in the midst of the night. Verse 2, to the end he might rush in upon the camp of the Jews and smite them suddenly. And the men of the forces were his guides. So he was trying to sneak up on Judas and the rest of the Israelites. And the fortress that was built in the city of David, right? These men helped him. These men that were already there ruling over Israel, they helped Georges and they guided them to where Judas and the rest of the Israelite army was. Verse 3. Now when Judas heard thereof, he himself removed, and the valiant men with him, that he might smite the king's army which was at Emus. Now Judas heard the plan of Georges. He found out that Georges and the army were coming to come kill them in the middle of the night. So Judas being the man of the Lord, Judas being a wise man, Judas having great men around him to help give him counsel, he decided to get everyone out of their camp and move them. Everyone, leave everything, leave your tents, leave your gold, leave your clothes, bring your swords, your shields, your spears, your bows, your arrows, and come follow me. We're gonna leave. So that way we can go and kill the king's army at Emus. Verse 4. While as yet the forces were dispersed from the camp. So Judas got his entire army to leave the camp. Verse 5. In the mean season came Georges by night into the camp of Judas. So now Georges came in the middle of the night to the camp spot where Judas was supposed to be. And when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains. And when him and his army came, ready to kill them all, notice that no one was there. No one was in the tents. No one was on guard. No one was on shamar, on watch. So he decided to seek them in the mountains. For said he, these fellows flee from us. So he said, you know what? Let's go up into the mountains because these Israelites, they're scared of us and they're running from us. Verse 6. But as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain, and 3,000 men who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to their minds. So now Judas it's daylight now, right? Judas is now up on the plains, ready for battle, with 3,000 men, right? And he's standing there, who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to mind. And Judas and the 3,000 men, they didn't care whether they had armor or not. They did not care what was going to happen. They knew they were going to win regardless. They knew that they stood for the Lord. They knew the Lord, as long as they fought for the Lord, they were going to win. So they didn't care about this heathen army, about this Greek army, about this white army. They didn't care about none of that. They knew they were going to win no matter what. Verse 7. And they saw the camp of the heathen, that it was strong and well harnessed, and compassed round about with horsemen, and these were expert of war. And they saw this army of the Greeks. They saw how many men they were. They saw how all the horsemen they had. They saw how all these men were experts in wars and were excellent warriors. But still, nevertheless, had neither armor nor swords in their minds. They didn't care how strong this army was. They didn't care how many men this army had. They didn't care how experienced these Greeks, these white people were. They knew they were going to kill them. There was not a doubt in their mind that no matter what, they were going to win. Nevertheless, had neither armor nor swords in their mind. They were going to beat them no matter what. Then said Judas to the men that were with him, fear ye not their multitude, neither be afraid of the assault. Now Judas is riling up his men. His men know they don't care about how many weapons the Greeks have. They don't care about how many men the Greeks have. They don't care how experienced in battle they are. Nevertheless, had neither armor nor swords to their minds. Judas is getting his men riled up. His men are ready for war. They're ready for war no matter what. Verse 9. Remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea, when Pharaoh pursued them with an army. He's telling them a story to get them riled up. Remember how Moses led our people across the Red Sea? Remember how Pharaoh had this huge army bigger than theirs? Remember what happened? They all got drowned in the water because the Lord stood with Moses and our people. Now therefore let us cry unto heaven, if peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us, and remember the covenant of our fathers, and destroy this host before our face this day. So nevertheless, no armor or shields. So nevertheless had neither armor nor swords in their mind. These Israelites, being led by Judas, They cried to heaven. They asked and begged the Lord to be on their side, just like the Lord was on the side of the Israelites and Moses when Pharaoh was trying to come after them. They were ready for war. They remembered the covenant of their fathers, and they were asking the Lord to honor that covenant because they're fighting for the Lord. They're fighting to keep their covenant. They're fighting to save Israel. They're fighting to make sure all Black, Hispanic, and Native American men in 2019, no matter where you are in the Hudson Valley, they fought for you to remember Hanukkah, to remember what happened, to remember why we celebrate the Feast of Dedication. Verse 11, that so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saveth Israel, so that all white people may know, all Africans would know, all Greeks would know, all Arabs would know, all Chinese and Japanese and Vietnamese and people from Nigeria and Ghana and the Samoans and the Eskimos, that everyone should know that there's one who delivereth and save us, and that is the Most High God. He sends us men to save us. He gives us the power to win. And all we got to do is stand by him. All we got to do is not compromise like Mattathias didn't compromise. All we got to do is take the jelly out your chest. Take the styrofoam out your balls and stand firm for the Lord. Keep his laws, his statutes, and commandments. Don't get scared and don't get scared when you're facing our adversary. Don't worry about it. As long as you stand for the Lord, as long as you're doing what the Lord wants you to do, the Lord will stand with you. Verse 12. Then the strangers lifted up their eyes and saw the coming over against them. And the Greek army, this heathen army, looked up and they saw Judas and the 3,000 men prepared for war coming at them with their war cry. Verse 13. Wherefore they went out of the camp to battle, but they that were with Judas sounded their trumpets. And all the Greek army, they came out of their camp, they started putting on their armor, getting ready for war, and Judas had his men sound the trumpets, and it was a wrap. Once those trumpets were sounded, once those trumpets were blown, it didn't matter. It didn't matter if the Greek army had the best weapons in the world. They were going to get destroyed. Verse 14. So they joined battle, and the heathen, being discomfited, fled into the plain. And when Judas's army, when the Israelite army met with the Greek army head to head, the heathens, they got discomforted. They no longer were experts in war. They no longer were courageous. They no longer were brave. They no longer knew how to hold the sword. They no longer knew how to throw a spear, because we ran down on them. We ran down on them with the glory, might, and power of the Most High God behind us. And the Lord is the reason why these heathens became discomforted. The Lord is the reason why these Greek armies, these white, disgusting heathens, fled into the plain. The Lord was with us, and he gave us the strength to conquer them. He gave us the strength to destroy them. Verse 15. Howbeit all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword. And as these white people, these punks, these scaredy cats, these men who thought they were tough and bad, as they were running away from us, we started to kill them that was close to us. If we caught you, you were dead. If you were running away and we were able to shoot an arrow at you, you died. For they pursued them on to Gezerah and on to the plains of Idumea and Azotus and Amnia, so that there were slain of them upon 3,000 men. And as the Greeks were running away scared, we killed 3,000 of them. Judas and his 3,000 men, through the power and glory and will of the Lord, we made the heathens flee. And because of the Lord, we were able to defeat them. And we killed 3,000 of those disgusting white people. We killed 3,000 of those disgusting white people that killed our women, that hung our baby boys by the neck on trees, that sacrificed the most disgusting things in our temple. We killed these white people. Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans got together and killed these white people because they were sick and tired of slavery, of oppression, and they wanted to stand for the Lord. Now, this is what happened back then. And what needs to happen right now is that we need to stick together. Black, Hispanic, and Native American people need to come together, need to stand together and take back our culture. You don't got to kill no one. You shouldn't kill anyone. You shouldn't go to war with the white man in America. You shouldn't try to go shoot up a shop over in Jersey City. You shouldn't do any of those things. What you should do is come together with the I.S.U.P.K. All you Black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women and children, come join the I.S.U.P.K. and take back what is yours. Learn your culture, learn your heritage, and then one day, when we come together again, we can beg the Lord to honor the covenant he made. And then the Lord can send us back our king so we can rule this earth again. And the first step that you got to do is subscribe to I.S.U.P.K. Subscribe to Hudson Valley, No Cowards Hudson Valley on YouTube. Click that link that I posted. Click the link that Officer Shalayala posted. Share it, subscribe to it, and help yourselves and help your families come back to the Lord. Come back to keeping his covenant. Verse 16. This done, Judas returned again with his host from pursuing them. And Judas got together with his army again from running after the Greeks. Verse 17. And said to the people, be not greedy of the spoils, inasmuch as there is a battle before us. So Judas is telling his army, listen, I know we just whipped their behind. I know they got all this gold and silver and all these wonderful things in this camp, but listen, don't touch it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it just yet. We still got a battle to fight. We still got a war to win. All these things, they're going to still be here when we come back. Verse 18. And Georges and his hosts are here by us in the mountain. But stand ye now against your enemies and overcome them. And after this, you may boldly take the spoils. So he's telling them, listen, don't touch anything. Don't worry about taking the stuff that they left behind. We still got a war to win. Georges and his army, they're right up there in that mountain. Now let's tighten our belts. Let's make sure our armor is good. Let's heal our wounded, and let's get back to war, because let's go defeat them and destroy them. And after we do that, after we destroy them, I promise you we'll come back and we'll take everything. We'll take all their gold, all their silver, all their horses, all their food, all their tents and clothes. Everything that we see here, we're going to take. But first, let us go finish this battle. Let us go destroying these heathens. Verse 19. As Judas was yet speaking these words, there appeared a part of them looking out of the mountains. So as Judas was speaking these words and telling his army, listen, let's go kill them. Let's go finish this job. Georges and his men were looking from the mountains. They were trying to see where Judas and his men were. Verse 20. Who, when they perceived that the Jews had put their host to flight and were burning their tents, for the smoke that was seen declared what was done. So they were trying to see what Judas and his army was doing. Georges and his army ran off, and they're looking around and they're seeing that Judas and his army, they're burning the campsite of Georges. They're burning the campsite of the Greeks. Verse 21. When therefore they perceived these things, they were sore afraid, and seeing also the host of Judas in the plain ready to fight. Now Georges, this Greek, the person that's leading this Greek army, they got scared. They're like, listen, we just got our behind whipped. They slaughtered a bunch of our men. They're right there. They're right there waiting for us to come fight them. They burnt our tents. There's hardly any way to escape. Look how great and massive their army is. We're supposed to have more men than them, but they're fighting as if they have more men than us. Verse 22. They fled everyone into the land of strangers. So you know what happened? Joshua was like, you know what? I ain't doing this right now. All the Greek army fled. All the heathens fled. The white man is not to be feared. They were so scared that they fled from Black, Hispanic, and Native American men. They fled from Judas and his army because they really were fleeing from the Lord. The Lord was with Judas and his army. And they knew the Greek army, they didn't stand a chance. So they fled. Verse 23. Then Judas returned to spoil the tents, where they got much gold and silver and blue silk and purple of the sea and great riches. Now, like Judas promised that let's not take anything and let's go finish this war and then we'll come back. After the Greek army fled, Judas and his men came back and they took everything. They did exactly what Judas said we were going to do. They spoiled the tents. They took all the gold, all the silver, all the precious items. Verse 24. After this, they went home and sung a song of thanksgiving and praised the Lord in heaven, because it is good, because his mercy endureth forever. So after this victory, they gave thanks to the Lord. They praised the Lord for allowing them to win. They praised the Lord for being with them and allowing them to overcome their enemy. Verse 25. Thus Israel had a great deliverance that day. Verse 26. Now all the strangers had escaped, came and told Lysias what had happened. Now Lysias is a general, right? He's a mighty man in the Greek Empire. Verse 27. Who, when he heard thereof, was confounded and discouraged, because neither such things as he would were done unto Israel, nor such things as the king commanded him were to come to pass. So Georges has now come and gave a report to Lysias, and Lysias was like, okay, what the king wanted done didn't happen. What I told you guys to do, you couldn't do. And he's very upset. He's discouraged. Verse 28. The next year, therefore, following, Lysias gathered together 70,000 choice men of foot. That's 60,000 men. And 5,000 horsemen, that he might subdue them. So next year, Lysias was like, you know what? Now we're going to get more men. He got 60,000 warriors and 5,000 warriors to fight on horseback. So that's 65,000 men that Lysias has on his side to go fight against Judas and the rest of the Israelites. Verse 29. So they came into Idumea and pitched their tents at Bethshura, and Judas met them with 10,000 men. So Lysias and his army came to Idumea, and they set up camp. And Judas heard about them, heard about what they were doing, him and 10,000 men. So it's 65,000 men against 10,000 men. So Judas and the 10,000 men came to go meet this army of 65,000 men. Verse 30. And when he saw that mighty army, he prayed and said, Blessed art thou, O Savior of Israel, who didst quell the violence of the mighty men by the hand of thy servant David, and gavest the host of strangers into the hands of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and his armor bearer. Shut up this army in the hand of thy people Israel, and let them be confounded in their power and horsemen. So Judas is like, listen, dang, they got this massive, humongous army. Look at all that army. Look at all those men. Look at all those horsemen. Let us pray to God. And he's saying, O God of Israel, the same God who allowed David to defeat Goliath, the same God who allowed David to defeat his enemies, the same God that allowed John to overcome the host of strangers. Shut up this army in the hand of your people. Give us the strength, Most High God, to destroy these people in your name, to obliterate them, to make them discouraged, to let Please put jelly in their chest so that way we can conquer them. Verse 32. Make them to be of no courage and cause the boldness of their strength to fall away, and let them quake at their destruction. Let them be discouraged. Let them lose all their bravery. Let them get scared and shake because they know they're going to get destroyed. Let them be scared and let them be fearful because when we come fight them, they know they're going to die. This is what Judas is asking the Lord to do. 33. Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving. And he's telling the Lord, listen, Lord, give every one of us that believe in you, that love you, that fight to obey your laws, that fight to keep your covenant. Please give us the power to kill them all with these swords that we have in our hands. Give us the power that serve and love you. Give us the power to destroy this enemy, to bash their face in, to stomp on their skulls, to put these swords and spears through their guts, to kill them all. Give us this power. Let us be able to destroy them in your name, in your honor, so that way we can fight to keep your culture, your heritage, your language that you gave us, to keep your covenant that you made with us. Verse 34. Verse 34. So they joined battle, and there were slain of the host of Lysias about 5,000 men. Even before them were they slain. And so guess what happened? We put in work. Judas and the Israelites, they killed at least 5,000 of Lysias' army. We killed as many of them as we could because the Lord was with us. The Lord gave us the power for our swords to cut down every one of our enemies. Verse 35. Now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judas' soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went to Antioch and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army greater than it was, he purposed to come again into Judea. Now Lysias, his men were getting slaughtered, just like Georgius and his men fled. Lysias and his army fled because they saw the manliness of Judas' soldiers. They saw how tough we were. They saw how we didn't care if we lived or died. They saw that it didn't matter to us if we lost an eye, lost an arm. We could have went in there with no weapons, and we still would have fought with the same manliness. We still would have had the same attitude that we didn't care if we lived or died. Lysias saw how mighty and powerful we were because we stood for the Lord. So what he did was him and his army fled again. The second time they fled from us. And in chapter 4, first time was with Georgius. Now the second time in chapter 4 with Lysias himself and his army. And he ran into Antioch, and now, knowing that his Greek soldiers were scared, he decided to get strangers to join his army. He got other heathens to join his army, so that way his army can be even bigger than before, because he wanted to fight and come up against Judea again. He wanted to fight Judas again. He was so set upon destroying Israel. Verse 36. Then said Judas and his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. So Judas and his brethren and his friends and his warriors and his generals and his warlords and all the manly soldiers, they got together and said, listen, these Greeks, they punks. They scared of us. They keep running from us. They don't want to fight us in battle because they know they're not going to win because the Lord is with us. Let them be scared, but you know what we should do? Because the Lord is allowing us to win, let us go back to our homeland. Let us go back to our land Let us go back to our temple. Let us go back to our sanctuary and clean it. Let us sanctify it again. Let us make our sanctuary holy again. Verse 37. Upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up onto Mount Zion. So they gathered themselves together and started to head to their temple, Mount Zion. Verse 38. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profane, and the gates burnt up, and the shrubs growing in the courts, as in a forest, or one of the mountains, yea, and the priest chambers pulled down, they rent clothes and made great lamentations and cast ashes upon their heads. So when they finally got to the sanctuary, they saw how destroyed it was. They saw how no one was keeping the temple holy. They saw how everything was destroyed. Think about growing up in a house, right? And generation after generation after generation, your family lived there. And your house was so beautiful, right? And one day you decide to leave your house to go on a journey, and you're looking at your house and you're seeing how wonderful and glorious it looks. And then one day you come back and you see holes in the walls. You see the pictures that you had with your family members destroyed and burnt. You see part of your house burned to the ground. You see how there's trees growing out of your house. You see how destroyed your house is. This is what happened. This is what happened to the sanctuary. Our sanctuary got destroyed. And Judas and his brethren and his warriors, they all were completely sad and destroyed inside. What they did was they mourned and cried to the Lord. And they rent their clothes and they put on sackcloth and put ashes on their head, and they prayed to the Lord and mourned to the Lord and cried out to the Lord. Verse 40, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces and blew an alarm with trumpets and cried towards heaven. And they cried to the Lord. They blew trumpets in anger. Verse 41, then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. And you know what Judas did? Judas was again infuriated. He said, you know what? I'm going to appoint certain men to go and fight these Greeks and these heathens in this fortress that they built while we clean this sanctuary. Because there ain't no way in hell this sanctuary is gonna stay like this. We're gonna fight these heathen, and we're gonna give glory back unto the Lord and clean this temple. Verse 42. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the Lord. So he chose priests that were blameless in conversation and had pleasure in the law, right? And these men cleansed the sanctuary. These were the same men that he chose to help rebuild the temple, to help clean the sanctuary. While these mighty men went to go destroy the heathen in the temple and in the fortress, these priests that he chose went to work to clean this sanctuary. Verse 43, who cleans the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones onto an unclean place. And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, and when they decided what they should do, what's going to happen? The altar, they killed pork and they killed children on this altar. It's profane. Verse 45, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it, wherefore they pulled it down. So they pulled down the altar. They destroyed everything. Basically, what they were doing, they were renovating. They were getting everything out of this sanctuary, everything that was defiled, everything that these heathen touched, anything that unclean blood was sacrificed on, they got rid of it. Verse 46, and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what to be done with them. And they brought the stones from the mountains, new stones. They brought the new stones into the temple and put it in a storage place until a day where a prophet came to show them what should be done. Verse 47. And they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar. Right? And they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar. So they brought all these new stones and started to build a new altar with them. Verse 48. And made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple and hallowed the courts. And so they started to rebuild the temple. They started to make everything sacred and holy again. They made also new holy vessels. And into the temple they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense and the table. And upon the altar they burnt incense. And the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the temple and spread out the veils and finished all the works which they had begun to make. And what they did was they went to work and made the sanctuary beautiful again, glorious again, righteous again. They made it honorable unto the Lord again. Verse 52. Now on the 5th and 20th day of the 9th month. Now remember how I said to pay attention to the 5th and 20th day of the 9th month, which is Caslu. Remember how in the first chapter, on the 25th day of Caslu, the temple was destroyed? Well, now on this day, in this year, on the same day, the 25th day of Caslu, and the 140th and 8th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. So don't get this confused with the 25th of December. Don't get this confused with Christmas. Don't get this confused with little baby Jesus being born. Don't get this confused with giving out gifts. On the 25th of Caslu, we honored our Lord again. We offered sacrifices according to the law of God on the new altar we built. Verse 54. Look at what time and what day the heathen have profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals. So on the same day, a couple of years ago, where the heathen destroyed our temple, the same day now, we're giving honor to it again. We're honoring the Lord in the same temple that destroyed. Verse 55. Then all the people fell upon their face, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who had given them good success. And on the 25th day of Caslu, and the newly renovated temple, the temple that we took back, the temple that we fought back for, the temple that we had to kill white people to get back, we worship God in it. We gave him thanks. We gave him glory for allowing us to defeat our enemies and allowing us to take back our culture, our land, our temple. Verse 56. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days. And now the Feast of Dedication, starting this Friday, this Friday, December 20th this year, for 8 days, we're going to keep the dedication of the altar and offer burnt offerings with gladness and sacrifice the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. So December 20th, this Friday, the Hudson Valley Israelites, we're going to be joining the I.S.U.P.K headquarters down in Manhattan. If you are in the Hudson Valley, in Rockland County, Westchester County, Orange County, Dutchess County, Putnam County, contact Officer Shalayala or contact myself, whether through a phone number, whether through email, whether through Facebook. You can contact Officer Shalayala at 914-557-3099. You can contact me at 845-445-8170. You can email us at I.S.U.P.K, HUDSONVALLEY@gmail.com. You can send us a message on Facebook Messenger. If you want to come and take a part in this feast of dedication, if you live in the Hudson Valley and you want to be part of this celebration and giving honor to your Lord, to your God, and be around your people while we celebrate this day of glory to the Lord, contact us. Come down to New York City in Harlem. The address is 2279 3rd Avenue, Harlem, New York. That is 124th Street and 3rd Avenue. We're going to be celebrating the Feast of Dedications for 8 days. Come and join us. Eat with us. Celebrate with us. Talk with us. Come in this one body and learn how you too can take back what is yours. Let's keep going. Verse 57. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them. And so what they did was they made the temple look glorious, like we make the headquarters in I.S.U.P.K in Harlem. We make it look glorious. All over all the other schools that the I.S.U.P.K has in all these other cities and states, they make it look glorious in honor of the Lord. Verse 58. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away, and all Israel was glad, because all the disgraceful things that the heathen did, we got rid of it. We put that behind us. We were able to take back our temple and sanctify it again. Verse 59. Moreover, Judas and his brethren, with the whole congregation of Israel, ordained that the days of dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year, by the space of 8 days, from the 5th, from the 5 and 20th day of the month of Casleu, with mirth and gladness. So every 9th month, the month of Casleu, starting on the 25th day, we begin the feast of dedication. It is HAKANAKA. Verse 60. And at that time also they built up Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and treat it down, as they had done before. And they set there a garrison to keep it, and fortified Bethshura to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea. And this is exactly what the I.S.U.P.K is. The I.S.U.P.K is that high wall, is the strong towers that we defended against the Gentiles whenever they try to come and try to destroy Israel again. We are that army, that garrison that defends the Lord's temple, that defends the Lord's people, that defends the schools all across this earth. And we defended against white people. We defended against Africans. We defended against Asians and Arabs. Any person that wants to come and destroy what the Lord has built in the I.S.U.P.K, anyone that wants to come and harm Black, Hispanic, and Native American people who we in the I.S.U.P.K protects, we will be there to destroy them and to defend our people. Now this is the Feast of Dedication. This is HAKANAKA. HAKANAKA is not about giving gifts for 8 days like the white Jewish man says, the fake Jew says. It's not about Christmas and baby Jesus being born and the 3 kings and giving out gifts on Christmas Day. It's about us being killed by white people. White people taking away everything we held dear. It's about white people destroying us, taking our land, taking our people into slavery, making us either choose death or abandoning our God. And it's about us not wanting to give up on God, not wanting to give up and compromise our covenant with God, and us fighting, destroying, and killing white people these Greeks that wanted to destroy us. Because just like today, white people want to kill Black, Hispanic, and Native American. White people have been trying and attempting to kill Black, Hispanic, and Native American people. Every race of people, white, African, Arab, Asian, all of them, they're still trying to kill the Lord's people, the Israelites, Black, Hispanic, and Native American people. And the Feast of Dedication is about us fighting against these other races of people, especially these white people, especially these white oppressors, especially these devils, and taking back what is ours and defeating them and winning and doing it all in the name of the Lord. So this Friday, December 20th, we're going to celebrate the Feast of Dedication. We're going to give honor to the Lord for giving us the power to take back our heritage, our culture, to give us the power to stand up for his covenant. And we're going to celebrate and remember all those people that died and fought and won for us to celebrate this day. So for all you that tuned in, make sure you subscribe to No Cowards Hudson Valley on YouTube. The link has been posted. Support this truth and subscribe to I.S.U.P.K Hudson Valley now. The link is right there. Go find this link on Facebook, on YouTube. Go on YouTube, subscribe, share it. Help support this truth. And make sure you sign out for class. I just put the attendance link right here. Make sure you log out before you leave class today. Be a part of this truth. Come change your life. And come take back what is yours. I'm Priest and Officer Shagapan of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General YAHANNA. And since 1969, we've been on the front lines fighting for our people, trying to save the lives of our people, snatching them and taking them out of the Christian church, the Catholic church, the Muslim mosque, out of the Republican Party, out of the Democrat Party, getting them off stripper poles, getting them off the drug corners, getting them out of these gangs, getting them out of the white man's military. And come and join your brothers and fight for what belongs to you. I'm Priest and Officer Shagapan. Shalom.